So far, we have been focusing on graphic forms that belong to the top of William Cleveland's and Robert McGill's scale over here. But what about the graphic forms that belong from to the part from the middle down? Okay, from the middle to the bottom of the scale, particularly these ones. Well, the thing is that when Cleveland and McGill were writing about these, they were focusing mostly on graphic forms that allow or that enable a lot of accuracy. So they recommended to use graphic forms always that belong here to the top of the top of the scale. But we could supplement that saying that accuracy is not always what you want. Sometimes, obviously, you need a lot of accuracy. You want people to compare very accurately to see the relative position of the lines or the slopes with a lot of accuracy, etc. So you need to go up in the scale. But sometimes what we care about when we design visualization is not accuracy per se. Sometimes what we want is just to give a very big picture of the data, like relative concentrations here or there, etc. The reason why I'm mentioning that is that graphic forms that belong to the middle and the bottom of the scale in this hierarchy over here are the methods of encoding that are behind the design of data maps, right? For example, proportional symbol maps or choropleth maps or cartograms like this one over here, right? They use area, they use color, they use shades of different colors to encode the data. And the reason why this is correct, this is right, is that these maps are not intended to let you compare New York City to Miami, Miami to Los Angeles, or to San Francisco, or to Seattle. The goal of these kinds of visualizations is to give you an overall an overview of the data, the big picture of the data, right? High concentration of Democratic votes in the coast. This is, by the way, a page by from the New York Times, published in 2008. A wonderful display summarizing the results of the 2008 presidential elections. And so again, the goal is not to let you compare city to city, but to give you the big picture, right? So Democratic vote tends to concentrate in the coast, and Republican vote tends to concentrate, well, in the Midwest in this case, and in rural areas mostly. Urban areas, even in states like Texas, tend to vote for the Democratic candidates, right? So this shows you the stark differences that exist in the United States. If the goal were to compare city to city or to rank them, then we should not display the data on a map. We should create some sort of table like this one with some sort of bar graph. Okay, so remember that when we design a visualization, we must always think about what the purpose of the visualization is: to provide a big picture and show you relative concentrations of the data. Then a proportional symbol map or a choropleth map can work perfectly well. But if you want details and you want to compare very, very accurately, then we need to do some sort of table or a bar graph or something like that, because those enable more accurate comparisons. By the way, just an aside, it is possible to design maps like these with software tools like Tableau or Power BI or many others that are available nowadays, but none of those includes a feature that lets you design a cartogram. A cartogram is a kind of map that distorts the regions of the map according to some sort of variable. For example, the size of the population of the states in the United States or the number of electoral votes. Now, fortunately, nowadays there is a free tool that you can use to design this kind of map. It's called Tilegrams, which is a tool that was developed in collaboration by Google News Lab and Pitch Interactive. Pitch Interactive is a company that produces data visualization for many different clients. So if you Google Tilegrams, all right, by Pitch Interactive, you will find the link to the tool, and you will see that it's quite easy to use. You can either use pre-existing data that the tool has, or you can upload your own data, and the shape of the map will change completely. And then you can select things such as, for example, the number of hexagons, the relative number of hexagons, so you can have more detail or less detail, more hexagons or less hexagons, right? And then once you finish designing the map with this tool, you can download the results either as a JSON file, which is a data file, or as an SVG, which is a vector file that you can later style with programs such as Adobe Illustrator or InDesign or any other, or Inkscape, any other kinds of design programs. Anyway, just to finish this lecture, right, as I mentioned before, there are many ways in which we can select graphic forms correctly. I have given you recommendations of websites that you can consult. I have also explained a little bit about the process that I follow to choose graphic forms. I have described also how to use this hierarchy by William Cleveland and Robert McGill. I would like to point out how important it is, again, to focus and to emphasize the purpose of the graphic and to try to create graphics that fulfill that purpose. Sometimes we design graphics without thinking about the purpose of the graphic, and the results can be a bad graphic. Let me show you an example. This is an example that I showcase in the Truthful Art to illustrate this problem. It's based on fake data, but I have seen examples like these over and over and over again throughout the years among my clients. So you imagine that you conduct a survey in 1994 and you conduct the same survey in 2014. You ask a group of people, for example, students from the University of Miami, what is their preferred music style? If they only had to choose one music genre, what would that music genre be, right? And you get these results in 1994. So you get more than 1/3 of the students, 35%, chose hard rock, 25% chose samba, 20% chose hip hop, 10% chose reggae, right? And then country and classic music over here. And then you conduct the same survey in 2014 and you get these other results. And you may be asking, why are you hiding the numbers here, right? Well, the reason why I'm doing that is that I explained this before in the video. When a visualization forces you to read every single number in order to interpret the story correctly, then perhaps you don't need any visualization, you need a table. A visualization should let you do things with the data or see things in the data without having to read every single figure, right? What kinds of things we may want to see in the graphic? For example, how preferences have changed, right? So I will ask you, for instance, to make an estimate of, has hard rock become more or less popular? And the answer is obvious, right? It has become more popular. But now try to do the same with samba. Has samba become more or less popular? It's very hard to see, right? And hip hop is the same. It's difficult to see if it is more popular or less popular. And the same thing with reggae. It's difficult to tell if it has increased or decreased in terms of preferences. Country and classic have become less popular in the last 20 years. Remember that this is all fake data, right? But it illustrates this problem really well. Now, this is an example of what happens when you design a visualization without thinking about the purpose of that visualization, because the purpose of the visualization is explicit in the title. Title is how music preferences have changed in 2 decades. But here we are not showing change. We are showing parts of a whole. And even for that, the pie chart is not a very appropriate selection of choice of visualization, just because that a pie chart that has more than 2 or 3 segments is usually quite useless. But again, here the pie chart, even if you had only 2 segments, is not great to represent change. If we want to represent change and allow people to see that change very accurately, we should not use a graphic form that belongs to the middle or the bottom of William Cleveland or Robert McGill scale. We should use a graphic form that belongs to the top of the scale. For example, a slope chart, which is a variation of the time series line chart, showing you how things have changed, right? Hard rock has increased, samba has decreased, hip hop has increased, reggae. Well, before I wrote reggae. Here I need to correct this. Should read reggae, not reggaeton, which is a completely different music genre. So again, very important. Emphasize what you need to show, all right? And try to think about the purpose of your visualization. What is your visualization for? What do you want people to do with that graphic? Remember that a visualization is an extension of our own senses, of our vision and our cognition. It's not just a beautiful picture. It needs to be beautiful. That's important. A visualization needs to be beautiful and elegant and well designed. But the core purpose of visualization is to let us do things in the data, to accomplish something when we see a data set represented graphically.